were towns with friendly neon signs. We were living in this simple times, leaving vibrations, crazy schemes behind. In our hearts we long to rewind.
Oh, the past was where the love belonged, singing our nostalgic song in a world that felt so right and true, without progressives to misconstrue.
I'm glowing in the night, shining like a star in this atomic age, a brighter by far. Untouchable energy, it's a glowing affair. Ready, I'll take you everywhere. I'm untouchable now, feel the power in the air. Radioactive rhythm, for sense without care. Electric and alive in this atomic embrace. Unstoppable now in this glowing space.
In the heart they gather strong, pushing back the lefty's throng. With the red banner held high, marching forward through the night. Promises of old will keep as the donkeys start to weep. Stars and stripes forever sway. In the land of the brave we stay. We've got the power now in the heart of every town. We've got the power now. The Reds are going down.
With a flagpole planted firm,
golden dreams that won't decay,
marching proudly through the day. In the eagle's shadow by, we find our strength and take our pride. Let the voices echo loud, tearing through the waiting crowd. We've got the power now in the heart of every town. We've got the power now. The Reds are going down. Across the plains and mountains tall, hear the victory call. With courage and with might we strive in the light of freedom's guide. We got the power now in the heart of every town. We've got the power now. The Reds are going down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Culturama, where on this show, we are fighting to take traditional Americana back into the United States. The one that we lost so long ago with the induction of postmodernism, critical theory, race and gender, and the induction of rather questionable cultures into our country. And on this show, what we are trying to do is to have the necessary conversations and analysis to really try to understand what the traditional spirit was and to reclaim it, and to reclaim the zeitgeist of Americana back into the United States so the American people can feel empowered. And my goodness, how are we feeling empowered as of recent since the Donald Trump win? And all these picks that he has done for his administration and onward is quite interesting. And I will be covering some of that today with you if we get to it. But I also have a lot of others for you to talk about with you that I think are also very pertinent that will affect mankind here in the United States. And one of those is the proliferation of the 4B movement, or rather the female abstinence movement. Yes, female leftists are now deciding to not sleep with men. How much of a dent will that really make in the political atmosphere of this country? I don't know, but I'm going to talk about it with you today. And also, we have really big news today and a really big guest. His name is Whatifalthist. Yes, he is a prolific YouTuber, and I'm going to pick his brain about this issue as well as many others that we will cover on today's stream. But we have a lot of news to cover here, and I'm going to ask the audience to please drop down your comments and to participate and engage, because I love all your guys' comments and I love to see all the usuals, but also new faces as well in on the stream and, hear their opinions on some of these issues. Because once again, a lot of these are going to affect us in our daily lives every day, especially since I understand I have a largely male fan base. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What is your opinion of the encroaching 4B movement? Are you nervous? Are there any leftists that you are really pining to sleep with that just won't come into fruition? We're going to be talking about some of Trump's picks as well. I would like to talk about the Doge department as well, or was part of the Department of Government Efficiency. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to make major changes in cutting back in bureaucracy and the inflated the inflated budget that we have been relying on to really push wonderful projects, such as the National Institute of Health pushing $33 million to maintain Monkey Island, where those monkeys are raised so we can conduct wonderful experiments on them to understand the primate brain. For instance, like seeing how monkeys become transgender. Yes, we're pumping them up with hormones. Also seeing how they do well on methamphetamine. I would imagine that that's very necessary information to know whether or not methamphetamine is actually good or bad for you. We also have pushed $20,000 to Ecuador for them to film a transgender documentary, a documentary about drag and transgenderism in Ecuador. All of these sound like serious money laundering schemes, and I'm going to be touching on that as well as many other news stories with you today. And I'm so happy to see that we have already guests coming into the chat and writing and viewing this on X, on Rumble. We also have viewers growing on Twitch and YouTube as well. So thankfully, we are reaching to the more leftist side of the internet. We're not just stuck in the deep, dark corners of Rumble alone. But thankfully, thanks to Elon Musk, we can now share our message to more larger platforms like Twitter. And it's such a genius idea and a genius move for him to actually implement and have live streams on Twitter. I think that's a wonderful idea. And also it gets shows like mine wonderful viewership as well. I just want to say before we go on to the next story, where I will be talking about the 4B movement, I encourage everyone to please send in a Rumble rant, like I say every show, but it does go a long way in maintaining the show, in building up the show, and getting more products as well for our shop as well. The Culturama collection on the 4 Liberty shop, we have sweatshirts, we have beanies, we have mugs, and we're planning to get a lot more products in there as well. I know that people love the mugs, and we have tote bags as well. That sold quite a few times with the show logo. And, we want to build it up. We want to have not just a wonderful fan base, but we want a lot of products as well for our fan base to have and to really hold to. And you get something tangible in supporting the show along the way as well. So I highly encourage you to look at the 4libertyshop.com. And on there, you will find the Culturama collection section where you can support the show directly through that link. And of course, as we proceed, I will have commercials with that link on the site, so you will see it at some point or another. Now, that being said, we also have a platform in which you can support us financially directly, either consecutively or through a one-time donation, and that is through the For Liberty Network. The For Liberty Network on Locals, namely. If you go on Locals, you just search up the For Liberty Network. There you can support the Culturama show, the one that you're watching now, but you can also support other shows within the network that we are building, and it is the Liberty Tonight show, which is a show that follows right after mine, after this one, which is really funny. A couple of fellas. It's like a nightly show that I think you guys will enjoy and have enjoyed. Some of my fans have. So you can support them through that network as well. And also you can support, of course, Austin Peterson's morning show, the Wake Up America show. So we have 3 shows in the network right now, but we are, I believe we are going to grow. We're only going to get bigger. We're starting it off. And honestly, this is just a way for the right-wing libertarians, really anyone that is opposed to the main regime that has been installed through legacy media and onward, on online spaces as well, heavily censored online spaces. This is a way for us to set up those alternative networks and hopefully alternative institutions in the future, so we can really have sources of multiple opinions, alternative opinions, so we don't have to hear the rhetoric that is being pushed down our throats every day, the one that has led us to believe that Kamala would even win the election, because it looks like a lot of people are on the right side of history, and a lot of people are sick of the previous regime systems. We are seeing legacy media dying off as well, and I'm going to be talking about that on this show tonight also. But if you want to be the first in supporting these alternative networks and structures and supporting alternative media and growing media, you can just donate $5 today to the For Liberty Network on Locals, or even to this show through a Rumble Rant. That is how we prosper. That is how we sustain our legitimacy, our relevancy, and that is how we will survive. And, for those that maybe may scoff at the idea and say like, oh, well, these are just podcasts, they don't really mean anything, I want you to consider Trump's various picks that he has picked for some of his administration as of late, and also him mentioning even Joe Rogan in the first place in his first speech after winning office as of last week. He mentioned people like Joe Rogan. He mentioned Joe Rogan himself because he is aware and Trump is plugged in and he knows where the media is heading, and it's heading to great places. So I will be talking about that on this show as well, and the death of legacy media. But before I get to that, I want to talk about the 4B movement, and I want to talk about female leftists and the progressive movement as a whole deciding not to sleep with men because of Trump's win. What do you guys think about that? I don't know. I will be talking about that next after this commercial break, so I will get those stories up and prepared. And halfway through the show, an hour in, we will be interviewing the one and only YouTube famous What If Alt History, and I will be asking him some questions about this topic as well as many other topics. So you will want to stick around for that as well. I'm going to get my stories up here. I want you guys to sit tight. Also, before I do that, I want to say hello to some of the people that did manage to make it so far. It looks like I already have a $5 donation from Entropy Nomad. Thank you so much, Entropy Nomad. It's so good to see you here. I love seeing your comments every day when I enter the stream here. He just commented first, $5. Thank you so much, Entropy. I also saw Bucks Nasty join us as well. Thank you for joining, Bucks Nasty. Mr. Pig is here. Always has a wonderful comments. Looks like we have a lot of comments, actually. No Easy Answers wrote 11 minutes ago, did I miss any Leo lore? I've been in jail for a thought crime. I'm so sorry to hear that, No Easy Answers, and that's the reason why we need to maintain these alternative systems and networks. So we will not be pressured to not have any thought crimes when we comment on things online. But you have not missed any Leo lore. For the last couple episodes, I've been really focusing in on the election, so I haven't had time to bring Leo out. But good news, I think at the end of the show, if you guys stick around, if our viewership is still up, I will wheel him out, perhaps in another silly outfit. But if you have any specific questions about Leo, I would be more than happy to answer them. If I happen to see your comment, I'll answer them. But if I do get a Rumble Rant, I am obligated to answer any questions you guys may have. So at any rate, I will be right back. I'm going to pull up your guys' favorite commercial. And I am going to get out the first topics, so I'll read them off to you.
Well, here comes Daniela like Marilyn with a twist. She's got a master's degree and a style you can't resist. On Culturama, baby, we're shaking up the scene. So hit that like, make it click, you know what we mean. Like and subscribe, come on, don't delay. With Daniela at the helm, we're leading the way. It's Culturama, taking back tomorrow today.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the four olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah, who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being.
If you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Well, things haven't been so sweet for Ben & Jerry's after the company posted an anti-American tweet, a few of them, on the 4th of July. The ice cream makers declared the United States was founded on stolen indigenous land.
Well, someone should tell Target that, because they're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store. And they even have a line just for kids.
Yeah, we're going to reach out to Ben & Jerry's and ask them how they can live with themselves as they operate a multi-billion-dollar company on stolen land while declaring other people give up their so-called stolen land.
This is the child section. This is literally the kids section. I'm next to a literal onesie that says whatever the hell that means. We have "Glad You Came Out" and "I'm so happy that you're queer" in the kids section. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, but pride and toddler don't belong in the same sentence.
Good news! Starbucks will offer its workers reimbursement of travel expenses related to accessing abortion and gender-affirming procedures.
Kyle Rittenhouse was seen wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company shirt, and they wanted to distance themselves from that individual. Key employees at the company also were donating to Democrats. Hafer doubled down on throwing many in his base under the bus, describing them as racist and a repugnant group of people.
Hey, Liberty lovers.
Okay, welcome back everyone to Culturama. So I have my stories up. I did see some people write in the chat about some of their thoughts concerning the 4B movement, and I wanted to read some of them with you guys before I proceed, but No Easy Answers wrote, people just need to have sex with ugly people like in the good old days. Perhaps that is true. Nathaniel T. 1 minute ago wrote, 4B will be largely eugenic, like the incel movement. And it is true, since I started reading a little bit more into the 4B movement, because truthfully, I knew very little about it prior to getting prepared for this episode. And I did notice that the movement is largely like the MGTOW movement. I don't know if you guys remember the MGTOW movement or men going their own way, but that was more of a thing, I would say like pre-Gamergate era, and this movement sounds very similar to that one. But we're going to touch more about that as we proceed. No Easy Answers wrote 2 minutes ago, well, men aren't having sex like they used to. Over half of men are already sexless. 4B just gave a name to the phenomenon. Correct. Largely men, I would say, especially with the current state of the dating market, are having less sex than I would presume like before in the past. What you are seeing is this phenomenon that somehow women are having more sex or more sexual endeavors than they previously have statistically. And what we are coming to find out, and this kind of like, it is a phenomenon. I don't know how statistically valid it is, but I have heard it floating around as an idea that because of dating apps, more women are having sex, but they're only having sex with a select number of men. And these typically end up being like very successful men, financially successful, professionally successful. And these men will rather stay single, but they end up having more sex with more women. And these women will kind of cluster around just these limited number of men, right? Because the job market is difficult. It is difficult to be as financially successful these days as in the past, or comparatively to other individuals. And so you kind of have this phenomenon where women are starting to kind of build out harems of themselves for these men, thanks to the proliferation of dating apps. But in return, what that causes is that another section of men, and a large section of men that aren't as professionally or financially successful, aren't having any sex. And that's, I think a lot of you viewers can agree as well, that that's contributing to a large part of the partisanship that we are seeing sexually and politically within the United States, which is not going to be good in the long run. But I'm Batman 1213 wrote also, 4B will just exacerbate cities' cannibalization of their country's population and make rural people far more disconnected from cities. Yes, I could see that happening. Also, just the degeneracy of it all, I think, will also contribute to that quite a bit. So, but at any rate, I'm going to pull up my stories here for you guys so we could actually talk about the issue. Hold on a second. Okay. So what I have here is this video of a liberal woman choosing to abstain from sex for the next 4 years, right? And this is just one of those tweets that I've been talking about where women are promoting this view. So let's take a listen to what this lady is saying and see if we can evaluate it properly here.
Especially in Florida, because all I have to say is good luck getting laid. Especially in Florida, because me and my girlies are participating in the 4B movement. That's my next plan. And I'm dead fucking serious. All I have to say is good luck getting laid.
So her and her girlies are deciding not to sleep with men. This is a brief introduction for the 4B movement for those of you that happen to be unaware of it, like I had been. So the 4B movement, or the 4 No's, is a radical feminist movement that actually emerged out of South Korea. And basically their 4 tenets states that they will not do 4 basic things, and that is no sex with men, no giving birth, no dating men, or no I guess even like public association with them romantically in any way possible or any capacity. And then lastly, no marriage with men. And, you know, what we are having is that this movement that has proliferated in South Korea for various reasons has bled over to the United States. And the issue, though, the difference between culturally South Korea, that versus the United States, I think are radically different, and the causes for both are radically different. And, you know, I don't know the primary causes for the 4B movement proliferating in the South Korea, but the main reason that I've heard is that it is highly patriarchal there, and they still suffer from rather patriarchal tendencies. And whether or not that is true, it is just simply a different conversation. I'm more willing to believe that, considering the culture of the Far East and Eastern cultures, but that is nothing like what's happening in the United States. And I think most of us can agree that the United States isn't as patriarchal or isn't as oppressive, isn't oppressive at all for women in the United States, but at least not in the degree that South Koreans may be aware of or have experienced. But it says here that in the United States, an emergence of interest has started to increase of the 4B movement since the election of President Trump in the 2024 presidential race. And as you can see, this paragraph has just recently been added into this Wikipedia page right here with 3 citations. Social media videos primarily reflected the idea that men had voted against women's rights by voting for Trump. Now, this is a talking point that is entirely false, by the way, and I understand my viewers are highly educated and they are aware of what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway for any new viewers here. But the Donald Trump presidential campaign was not anti-woman. The Democrats had fashioned his run as if it was anti-women's rights. And I'm not even necessarily talking about abortion rights or even access to female health care, right? Or even relating to contraception. Because Donald Trump had come out numerous times throughout his presidential run for 2024, and he has come out and said over and over and over again that he is opposed to a federal abortion ban. He is opposed to federal abortion ban. He is for IVF. He just wants to wash his hands clean from whatever it is the Democrats were saying, that he wants to impose a federal abortion ban, and he doesn't want women to have any access to those implements or those procedures whatsoever, and that's just simply not true. But Democrats just outright lie, and they try to demonize him when none of it's even applicable. And from what I've come to find out after this election is that people, particularly young women, young progressive women, also unironically the demographic that just doesn't seem to pay attention to the news at all or read anything, were under the impression that Trump was for a federal abortion ban, which is entirely opposite of what he has been saying. So I don't know, it really made me question just not even the state of young women in America, but more so the state of humanity as a whole. Because if they really were concerned about their rights being taken away, I mean, truly, if you genuinely think abortion is a right and you want access to that, you have a lot of anxiety surrounding that issue. Okay. Wouldn't you be motivated to just look into what he said about the issue? Not just once. It takes one Google search. None of these people have done it. And I don't know if any of them are in bad faith or if they genuinely are just that dumb. I don't know. It's just concerning to me, and it has been a major black pill for me to see how people have been reacting to this. But I'm getting beside the point. I also wanted to talk about sexuality and women, okay? Because whatever you may think that the 4B movement is, or why it started in South Korea, right, and why it's bled over into the United States, there could be various reasons for that. It could just be angry feminists at the end of the day, right? And a lot of people are saying, well, this is trad. This is going to make them, pick up a more traditional lifestyle, right? They're going to wait until marriage to have sex, because there have been a few posts online by women saying, I think it was a Reddit post. I don't have it saved up here for the show, but there was this Reddit post that went viral, and it was of a female Redditor saying that, ladies, let's all just get together and wait until marriage to have sex. That's really going to show them, right? And obviously, these people are so far into their own echo chambers, I suppose, that they don't really see the irony of what they're saying here. Obviously that means that they're picking up more of a traditional lifestyle as it pertains to their sexuality and female sexuality. I don't think it's going to show anyone other than themselves that it's probably worthy to wait till marriage to have sex, but that's beside the point. However, I do want to explore the notion of women deciding to get into the 4B movement in the United States, because it really begs a question about what sex actually means to these ladies, right? And then they're utilizing sex as a utensil. And this topic really fascinates me because you hear this complaint a lot within relationships or otherwise, saying that women utilize sex as a tool to control the male masses, right? And that really makes me question about the psychology of women and the motivations behind what they are doing. And so, what I figured, and this is, the reason why I brought up my tweet is because it kind of hints at what I'm trying to communicate today. But let me just read that off this tweet. I quote tweeted this woman called Walking Flex. Have no idea who she is. I don't know what her political inclinations are. I just like the tweet. She said there's no such thing as casual sex. Nothing about sex is casual. You are inserting yourself into someone else. Someone explain WTF is casual about that. I quote tweeted that, and I said that the ultimate human hack, really, was the attainment of physical pleasure and the manifestation of physical pleasure in its fullest form, really, while avoiding all the responsibilities that follow from creating a relationship. And that isn't just limited to pregnancy. I know a lot of people on the right say it's limited to pregnancy, and that's the primary ideal, or rather the ultimate objective of sex. But I don't think it's just limited to that. There's many reasons that, and I think are more importantly, that follow from relationship and sex, and that is obviously cultivating a relationship and attachment to someone, a psychological attachment to someone, more than just emotionally. And that's really important. And that really naturally, I would presume follows from sex. But these women that are inclined towards this movement have completely divorced themselves from that notion. And not only that, is that the female psychology seems to be inclined towards sex because that's really the only way that women have, the only tool and the only way that women can control men. Okay. And so what I'm trying to say here, I guess, ultimately is that women are just happen to be so fixated on sex. And I've been seeing a lot of people comment and say, well, why are women so inclined towards being focused on sex and fixated on sex and trying to control the narrative of sex, right? And are so obsessed with female reproductive issues and abortion as if that's their only policy that they decide to vote on. And my question is that why, how else would that be the case when really the only way that women can manipulate and change their external environment is through the action of sex? Because if you really think about it, throughout history, women really did not have the sole access to resources, not, other than their own bodies in producing the human race. But they don't have the access to resources as much. They do not have the physical prowess to do so. Women obviously were limited to more gatherer roles rather than hunter roles. They had a less inclination to go out and develop their agency and practice their agency in the external world. So naturally, they're going to be focused on single policy issues like abortion, like female health care. And the only way they are going to control men and their external environments is giving or not giving sex. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself once again, as usual. I did want to bring attention to Whatifalthist's tweet on this because I will be interviewing him later. But he tweeted on this issue on the same video, and he said, I continue to be horrified. My prediction on the 4B skyrocketing was accurate. I was really hoping I was wrong on this one, since I don't want to have to deal with players motivated by pure nihilism itself. Guess we know we're in the Mouse Utopia timeline now. May God help us. So, yeah, this may be a black pill. I genuinely don't think that these women will be able to do this long term. I really don't think so, because especially when I think that when people have wantonly have sex, right? And they have truly divorced themselves from the relationship and the responsibilities that follow through it, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, even if you believe in that. And once you've truly divorced yourself from that and you've limited yourself purely on a physical basis of pleasure and a physical basis of functionality, then really that becomes addictive. It's not as if, you're worried about having a bad breakup or a bad emotional experience. You must have really deep psychological issues if you're willing to undergo psychological and emotional attachments over and over and over again. That's really unlikely. It's more so that anyone that is inclined towards having sex with multiple partners all the time, that they are less capable of even having emotional attachments, and therefore it becomes more of a physical dependency and a physical addiction. And so the point I'm trying to laboriously get at here is that what I think is happening is that these women are a little pissy, okay? They may want to do this. They truthfully may have set their heart on it, and they don't want to have sex with any man, because they are genuinely probably turned off with Trump's win. But that's not going to last long. These women have already deluded themselves and deluded their own souls to the point where I think they're physically dependent on sex. So I don't think men really have to worry about this one. But moving onward from this topic, I also did want to point my attention to this video where a woman is shaving her head. The liberal women are shaving off their hair because Trump won. Apparently they want to make themselves ugly so they won't have to have sex. Because they can't have abortions anymore, I'll allow this. Let's watch this video. Looks like we have a little bit of a Britney Spears moment there. Clearly, this is a very stable genius. Something tells me that she was not having a lot of sex to begin with, although I could be wrong, actually. She may have been having a lot of sex just with very bad quality men. That's the thing, and I think that's the alternative, is that, when people try to denote a man as a loser, he'll say he's not having any sex at all, he's an incel. Whereas with women, I actually think it's the opposite of that. I think when a woman truly has lost in society, it's when she has having a lot of sex, but with very bad quality men, because that's just the nature of the game, right? Also, her nose ring, I don't think is doing her any favors either. Maybe that was a little too harsh. I don't know. I'm going to take a look at the chat here. Okay. We are really spiking in viewership on Rumble. Thank you, everyone that have decided to join us on Rumble. I really appreciate that. We are not getting any donations in, so I don't have to catch up on that. But I do encourage you guys to keep donating to the Rumble channel and the Rumble chat. It goes a long way in supporting us. And also, if you're not viewing us on Rumble, share and like the stream on Twitter as well. That does go a long way, and that's a free way to just promote the show and to support the show. So that will be highly appreciated. Looks like we just got another one from Entropy Nomad, $5. Hamlet was right. What monsters you make of men, get thee to a nunnery. Exactly. Some women, I think, are just meant to go to a nunnery. That's just the way it is. We believe in natural hierarchies. You can tell by their physiognomy and their psychology that perhaps some women are just meant to be in a nunnery. So at any rate, I will be right back. We have a lot more news to cover, and the next one I want to cover is a little bit more sad. But does anyone remember Dennis Prager? I'm sure you guys do. Well, he has taken a bit of a tumble and is in the hospital right now, I believe. I do want to cover that because I don't want anything bad to happen to a very large scale, established conservative figurehead. So I do want to talk about Dennis Prager in danger. That's going to be coming up. And also much more. We have an interview coming up with What If Alt History, the one and only YouTuber. He has over 600,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he makes very interesting politically and historically inclined videos. So I'm going to be talking with him about some current news issues, some of the topics that we have just covered as well. And I think you guys will really appreciate that. And also I have a lot more to talk about, as well as legacy media dying. Leftists are just completely leaving Twitter, leaving social media platforms, and large scale newspapers and channels are letting go leftist and progressive talking heads and content creators. I'm going to be touching on that as well. I think that's a really big wave that we're seeing towards a trend of conservative media. I just also got $2 from Grizz Cheese. Thank you so much, Grizz Cheese. It's wonderful to see you in the chat again. Hero, don't forget to throw away your vibrators, ladies, because guess who it was invented by? Yes, exactly. And that's another thing with females in the sexual market, is that they're just more capable of... how do I say this? More capable. How do I put this in a way that's PG? Women are just more capable of satiating themselves in a way that men can't, I believe. And so what occurs from that and what follows from that, and this is my own, personal theory. People don't have to agree with me on this one, okay? It's my own personal theory, but I think that women are more inclined towards independence because of that. And it's not only limited to the proliferation and the invention of sex toy devices, but it is largely connected to it. So that's another thing that I think that's also contributing to the likelihood and possibility of these women engaging in abstinence movements. But like I said earlier, certain women that do have sex so often by multiple partners that have divorced themselves from the emotional and psychological responsibilities that follow from sex, I think will be less inclined to keep up this abstinence movement, simply because I don't think vibrators would compare to sex in the same way. We have another donation come in, $10 from Andy Opp. Thank you for joining us, Andy. It's really good to see you again. He wrote Cultural for Liberty, Doing Great, Daniela. Thank you so much, Andy. I really appreciate that. Okay, I will be back. I'm running a little bit behind schedule, so I will let you guys off with another commercial break, and then we'll be right back with that Dennis Prager story. So just stick around. Oh.
We were towns with red neon signs. We were living in this simple times, leaving partners and strays as teens behind. In our hearts we long to rewind.
Oh, the past was where the love belonged, singing our nostalgic song in a world that felt so right and true, without progressives to misconstrue.
I'm glowing in the night, shining like a star in this atomic age, a brighter by far. Untouchable energy, it's a glowing affair. Ready and ready, I'll take you everywhere. I'm untouchable now, feel the power in the air. Radioactive rhythm, but sense without care. Electric and alive in this atomic embrace. Unstoppable now in this glowing space.
In the heart they gather strong, pushing back the lefty throng. With the red banner held high, marching forward through the night. Promises of old will keep as the donkeys start to weep. Stars and stripes forever sway. In the land of the brave we stay. We've got the power now in the heart of every town. We've got the power now. The Reds are going down.
With a flagpole planted firm,
golden dreams that won't decay,
marching proudly through the day. In the eagle's shadow by, we find our strength and take our pride. Let the voices echo loud, tearing through the waiting crowd. We've got the power now in the heart of every town. We've got the power now. The Reds are going down. Across the plains and mountains tall, hear the victory call. With courage and with might we strive in the light of freedom's guide. We got the power now in the heart of every town. We've got the power now. The Reds are going down.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome back to Culturama, everyone. Yet again, the hair got in my face, so I had to put in a headband. I hope you forgive me for that. But at any rate, I'm going to continue with the next story. And like I had said, it seems as though Dennis Prager is in trouble, and I wanted to touch on this right before our coming interview with the one and only What If Alt History, that he has a very large YouTube, has over 600,000 subscribers and followers, and I think over about 70,000 followers on Twitter. So it's going to be a really big interview, and I know some of his fans are watching, so you guys just stand by. Okay, stand back and stand by. We're going to have him interviewed within the next 20 to 15 minutes, so I will be getting him on. But I did want to touch on this story first before we continue. So let me pull up the story here. Okay, give me 1 second. Alrighty. So here we go. It is right behind me. This story was tweeted by Sebastian Gorka. I found first. But he said that my friend Dennis Prager has been in a very bad accident. He is in the hospital surrounded by his family. Please pray for them all. And for those of you that don't know, Dennis Prager is behind Prager University, or PragerU, a really large figurehead within the conservative movement. And, you know, regardless of what you think of him, okay, because I know a lot of people have very strong opinions about Dennis Prager. All right. This guy, I understand, but you cannot deny the fact that he is a big staple within the conservative movement. And what I've come to find out is that Dennis Prager is sort of like the Heritage Foundation, as it pertains to how Republicans, conservatives, and and right-wingers in America view him. You know, a lot of people kind of view the Heritage Foundation, or even Dennis Prager in this case, as like a neocon, not really to be taken seriously anymore, and as a dying aspect and facet of the right-wing movement and of the conservative movement within the United States. However, and even though I'd be willing to agree with you on some part with that, I do want to say that you cannot deny the fact that he has been a large staple and a large figurehead of proliferating conservative ideas within the United States. So I think it's only, worthy of our time to kind of give him some respect and some good thoughts and feelings. I'll like that tweet. There's my support for the guy. And here's the original tweet that shared this information from PragerU itself. It says that on Tuesday morning, PragerU, the founder and PragerU founder and our dear friend Dennis Prager suffered a serious back and injury following a fall. I can't talk. I'm getting too excited here. But he is resting in a local Los Angeles hospital. Doctors are assessing him, and we will keep you informed of his condition. So that was all tweeted by PragerU, and it is very unfortunate that this had to happen to the individual. Obviously, Dennis Prager is a little bit, top heavy, so perhaps he took a little tumble. He's a senior citizen. Perhaps he took a little tumble and the fall was a little worse than we had expected. It happens to the best of us, right? Especially the seniors. I do have this page pulled up here, which I apologize, this page is a little cancer. There's a lot of ads here. I couldn't find too many news stories last night that detailed this, but I did want some more information, so I did my own research into this topic just to see, where he's at. But it says here that he is seriously injured. Hold on. Did this tweet say he was? Yeah, this tweet also stated that he has a serious back injury. So when they say serious, that it could be potentially really bad. It could even be fatal. So, my thoughts and prayers. Like I said, this website's cancer. Anyway. Seriously injured after an accidental fall. Conservative American talk show host and founder of PragerU has suffered a serious fall. It says here that this happened just a couple days ago, but the public was informed as of yesterday. So breaking news, trying to bring this news out to you as soon as I can when my show starts. But he's in LA. He's in the LA hospital. And as of yet, I don't believe we have any updates on the individual and his status. So, hopefully we will get more information as it follows. But it did leave many fans and followers distraught. Everyone's sending their best wishes and prayers. And it's really unfortunate this had to happen to this individual, but I wanted to ask you guys, they have a blurb here about who Dennis Prager is, of course, And again, this website it's GhanaCelebrities.com. it's foreign, but you can tell that perhaps they will not have any political association one way or the other. I'm just trying to get unbiased news sources here. Okay, sometimes you got to go to different countries in order to do that. All right. But anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think about this? What are your feelings on Dennis Prager and the PragerU legacy? Because as far as I'm aware, and as far as I believe, I really do believe that he was a major conservative figurehead and a staple of the conservative movement, and has been responsible for, promoting certain conservative views. I have seen a lot of people within the right wing now deviate from that and say that, that this is a dead aspect of the conservative movement now, and that there are dead aspects all around us, like, for instance, Turning Point USA. I've heard some people that, look, Turning Point USA and what Charlie Kirk is doing has been good for the time being, but it's just a neocon organization now. There's nothing to be really taken seriously of them. They're not the up and coming new forward conservative organization like we are seeing some other new ones crop up. A lot of people cite the dissident right as an example of new facets of the right wing and the conservative movement coming up. And, in part, I do sort of agree with that. There are aspects of the conservative movement and right wing movement that are just kind of dead and or dying. But you also cannot deny the fact that they were responsible for promoting the movement and really creating the movement to what it is today. And so, you may not like your elders. You may not even agree with them sometimes, but you do got to give them respect, okay? And perhaps that's very un-American of me to say, that perhaps we should give our elders respect. But I think it's necessary, and it's also good for the soul. So I see a lot of people on Twitter here give him their respect, saying, oh no, we're praying, we hope he does better. So that's really heartening to see. And because when I found out about this information, I thought a lot of people would be like celebrating the fact, because I know that a lot of conservatives, or more so right wingers, do not like Dennis Prager and his legacy. But maybe that is subject to change. Looks like, and it's true, a lot of people within the conservative movement have a little bit more empathy. Not empathy, how do I say this? A little bit more ethic when it comes to like negative situations occurring. I don't see a lot of conservatives wish death onto other people like you see with people of other political inclinations. But I'm going to check into the chat and see if we got any more donations. We do not. Okay, I'm caught up with that. Entropy Nomad wrote, he is in no rush, but will be missed when it happens. Okay. What do you mean when it happens? Do you mean like when he passes away? How old is Dennis Prager actually? Let me Google that. I didn't actually look that up. Dennis Prager age. 76 years old. Yeah. See? Hold on. So he's 76 years old. This August 2nd, 1948. Yeah, he's kind of up there. So let's see if the Wikipedia page is edited for him. Does it have like the... Yeah. A lot of citations. I don't... Yeah, see, they did add this in. In November 2024, Prager suffered a serious back injury as a result of a fall. And they cite too. Okay, well, I don't see why that has to be in the Wikipedia news. Wikipedia. I don't know how you pronounce it. But I don't know why they would have to add that in, but something told me that they would add that in. So there you go. I'm always right. Okay, what other comments are you guys sending me? And by the way, if you want to support the chat, if you want to support the show, please send a Rumble rant in the chat. It's very appreciated, and I'm obligated to answer any of your questions or read any of your comments if you do so. If you do want to send a message, it's no promise that I will always read it because I do sometimes get carried away in this show, but if you do want to text me, there's a direct text line for when the chat is busy, and that is 573-416-0635. Once again, that is 573-416-0635, and that way you will have a direct access to sending me a text and having me see what you have to say when the chat's a little too busy. Although I will do my best to make it to the chat and read some of your guys' comment. But if you want me if you want me to always get to your comment or chat, send a Rumble rant. That is the one way. Not only are you supporting the show, but I'm obligated to read your comment there, okay? So don't forget to do that. And it looks like No Easy Answers. Thank you, No Easy Answers. Just donated $5. He said, No Easy Answers is the best. I don't care for any conservative that doesn't take a stance against a cultural and racial replacement of America, and that idea is radioactive to the establishment Republican. No Easy Answers. I think you hit the nail on the head with that comment. Now, I have a lot to say about that. Hold on, I just got a text here too. Let me make sure. Okay, I'm going to read this text in a second here. No Easy Answers. I do want to give your comments some thought here because, like, you're absolutely right. When you're noting the replacement that is occurring in the United States, that does make you radioactive, but really it is common sense. Now, I don't want to focus on, on racialism all that much because that is a different conversation to be. That is a conversation that is rather spicy, and there's a conversation to be had about that. But what I like to focus on and what I like to reorient my attention on is culture. And naturally, what tends to occur is that culture values certain ways that people think and do things and orient themselves in the world is tied and follows through from their ethnicity and the values that are espoused there. Now, whether or not that's a nature versus nurture argument is a conversation that has been had for, I don't know, since the beginning of history and science and human science itself, right? Human science. What other science is there? I don't presume that monkeys do science. But anyway, that conversation has always been had. The same thing applies to men versus women, right? There are certain things that men are more inclined towards that women aren't, and vice versa. Those conversations are necessary. And what really irks me is that we are not willing to have those conversations within science. And it doesn't even have to pertain to politics, because I understand that people will politicize and will prioritize certain things to the point where it's just uncomfortable to talk about, and it is very personal. Politics is personal. Nothing about politics is impersonal, truthfully, other than perhaps statistics, but even that gets personal and that gets skewed. So I understand that. But at least within science, those conversations have to be had, and it is unfortunate that we're not having them. However, when it comes to implementing policy and having political discussions on the topic, I think, and I personally prefer to maintain a just to culture and values, because truthfully, that's what we're trying to impede or facilitate when we try to implement policy or encourage policy or legislation. So, and I am a hardline individualist, so I try not to collectivize everything, although in my writings I do collectivize women quite a bit. So, but I am a woman, so I'm allowed to say that. But just to get to your point, No Easy Answers, I do agree with you. And, frighteningly enough, it does bleed into culture. You cannot even talk about the differences of culture within the political atmosphere without basically getting, in trouble or burned. That's just the way it is. And it's really silly because, clearly there are specific delineations and differences between cultures. And I talk about this all the time, is that, Western civilization or Western cultures are drastically different from Eastern cultures. And for people to pretend like that's not the case are just simply foolish. Mr. Pig wrote the systematic replacement. It is systematic, yes. Okay, and I did get a text come in, so let me read that text. Someone texted me and said 4B might have been one factor in causing South Korea's birth rate to plummet. Correct, that is true. American men are in a dilemma. Either be dominated by a girl boss Western woman or contribute to the immigration psyop and trade green card passport broing. And then this person also wrote, Pat Buchanan is sick as well. And they sent me a link. And there seems to be a tweet they sent me stating that, ladies and gentlemen, it has come to our attention that Pat Buchanan has fallen ill. So it looks like Dennis Prager and Pat Buchanan are both ill. My apologies to both. Prayers and thoughts sent their way. But to get to your initial text, Yes, the birth rate has plummeted. I don't think it's solely due to the 4B movement. However, it is the 4B movement in South Korea has contributed to that. And I've written about this as well, about the birth rates in South Korea plummeting, and it is drastically affecting them right now. I mean, economically, culturally, and so forth. But yeah, and it's true. I mean, American men are in a dilemma, and they really have to make the decision about whether or not they want to breed with their own, with citizens and their own people, or if they want to import women from the cultures that I just talked about even, and breed with them. I'm not going to say what's right or wrong here, but it is a dilemma, and this is what I'm hearing a lot of Western men, American men say and talk about, that this is an issue that they are being posed with and to have to contend with quite frequently. At any rate, I am running a little late on my scheduled interview with Whatifalthist, so I'm going to be bringing him on. Just give me a brief moment. I'll put us on a break, and so I'm going to get him on, get him set up for the Zoom meeting. But this is with Whatifalthist, everyone, the one and only famous YouTuber. I'm going to get him on, ask him a few questions, and hopefully this will go smoothly and there'll be no technical issues. So fingers crossed. But I'm going to get on my commercial and I will be right back.
Well, here comes Anita like Marilyn with a twist. She's got a master's degree and a style you can't resist. On Culturama, baby, we're shaking up the scene. So hit that like, make it click, you know what we mean. Like and subscribe, come on, don't delay. With Daniela at the helm, we're leading the way. It's Culturama, taking back tomorrow today.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the four olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah. Who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being.
If you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Well, things haven't been so sweet for Ben & Jerry's after the company posted an anti-American tweet, a few of them, on the 4th of July. The ice cream makers declared the United States was founded on stolen indigenous land.
Well, someone should tell Target that, because they're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store. And they even have a line just for kids.
Yeah, we're going to reach out to Ben & Jerry's and ask them how they can live with themselves as they operate a multi-billion-dollar company on stolen land while declaring other people give up their so-called stolen land.
This is the child section. This is literally the kids section. I'm next to a literal onesie that says whatever the hell that means. We have glad you came out, and I'm so happy that you're queer. In the kids section. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, but pride and toddler don't belong in the same sentence.
Good news! Starbucks will offer its workers reimbursement of travel expenses related to accessing abortion and gender-affirming procedures.
Kyle Rittenhouse was seen wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company shirt, and they wanted to distance themselves from that individual. Key employees at the company also were donating to Democrats. Hayford doubled down on throwing many in his base under the bus, describing them as racist and a repugnant group of people.
Hey, Liberty lovers, stop.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Culturama. I have with me the one and only What If All History. Rudyard, is that your name correct?
Rudyard.
Rudyard. Thank you, Rudyard, for joining us today. I am a longtime viewer of your channel, and I know a lot of the audience is as well that's watching this show here. And for those that don't know, that are happening to watch this show and don't know him, he is, I would say, a rather well-known YouTuber. And I'm just going to let you, Rudyard, introduce yourself and where people can find you.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm Rudyard, and I think Daniela did a pretty good intro for me.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Rudyard, I do want to ask you some questions here about some of the issues that we have covered on this show so far. I don't know if you've been watching, but we have been talking about the 4B movement. And I know that you've commented on the 4B movement before on your Twitter and elsewhere. So I kind of want to ask your opinion on that. And I kind of shared my opinion, but you've been kind of taking a black pill approach to this. Could you explain your views on the movement and why we should be concerned about it?
I had been covering the 4B movement for a few years because it fit into a paradigm I've been working with for about 2 years. And that paradigm is mouse utopia.
Yes.
And the way my mind works is I run a variety of different simulations and I look at evidence and I think, does the new evidence, because I know I don't know things. So when I look at new evidence, I think, which of several paradigms does this fit into? And I got into mouse utopia because the question you asked is, I'm going to take it to be a mouse utopia question because it leads so directly to it, where mouse utopia was a study that was done about 30 times in the late 60s. And the purpose of the study was they dropped a handful of mice in infinitely perfect conditions where no infinite food, no disease, no external predators, and the mouse population each time jumped from 6 mice to 2,000. And keep in mind, there's a threshold of 6,000 mice that this place could hold. And what happened each time was the complete breakdown of mouse society, where you saw a series of deviant behaviors, as well as the collapse of the birth rate to 0, killing the mouse colony every single time. Then you saw psychopathic, aggressive mice. And they killed off the other mice. You had mice who couldn't breed. You had the female mice got more masculine. The male mice got more effeminate. You had these mice that would lick themselves with the beautiful ones. And so the mouse social structure totally broke down. And I kept on seeing evidence post-COVID that only fit into the mouse utopia paradigm, which is what really scared me. There were things I didn't see in the historic record that I saw that we were doing that mouse utopia did. And so one of them, or two of them at least, are NEETs and the 4Bs. And the NEET is a term from Japan. Both of these are terms from our allies in Asia, Korea and Japan. And the 4B movement is women completely abstaining from all activity with men. I know it's sex. Is it also romantic relationships?
Yes, it's like dating, marriage, and giving birth as well.
Yeah. And so that's a real clear mouse utopia thing, or one of the parts of mouse utopia is just the complete breakdown of shared community and shared society and the complete collapse of the birth rate to 0. And I looked at East Asia as a future for mouse utopia because all of the mouse utopia trends are happening faster in Asia than America. So I looked to both Japan and Korea for the 4B movement and the NEETs. So I predicted both several years in advance. And these are not predictions I want to have. These are not predictions I want to see. And so when I do see them, it's just horrifying because the implications of mouse utopia are so insane.
And you did say that this started off in Asia, and you've seen that these even the terminologies that we apply here today started in Asiatic countries. Do you think like that's a specific pattern, or is that just due to chance? Like, is there like a reason for that?
So how based is your audience?
That's a good question. Well, I don't know if you just saw, I don't know if you just saw, I just got a comment from I forgot the username. He said that there is a real issue with cultural and ethnic or racial replacement happening in the United States. And what I talked about is that, I do typically, especially when it pertains to politics and policy, I typically focus on culture rather than the ethnic foundation of some of these differences. However, what I did say, and I truthfully believe, is that a lot of values, tradition, culture does naturally follow from certain ethnic divides and certain ethnic groups. So I don't think there's any issue in coming from a place where we say, look, there are particular, predilections that certain populations have, and we should be able to have that discussion. But I just genuinely wondering what your opinion is on that, or if you think like this is just a chance thing.
I heard that loud and clear.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I would actually chalk up to race, and not because culture is. I've studied anthropology and I've studied genetic and cultural differences, and I'm more so on the cultural side of people on the DR.
Mhm.
I think a lot of things that we do chalk up to race is actually culture, but Asian society is more neotenous and K-selected, which the Japanese are the most K-selected population in the world, followed by the Koreans. They're the first people to do this. And K-selected populations are more dependent upon group activity and upon group approval. And one of the things we have found is genetic is Asians have significantly higher effects of social approval on them. And so I don't think it's cultural, because if it was, it might be, but these are so intertwined, it's hard to draw a limit past a certain point. And cultural factors, I would have expected Northwest Europe to happen first, because Mouse Utopia is a downstream effect of the Industrial Revolution. And so if it was a purely cultural thing, I would have guessed it would happen in the countries that had the Mouse Utopia breakthrough earlier. But otherwise, I think it's a genetic or cultural thing, because Korea has the harshest effects of anywhere, but it's also a country that's only industrialized in the last generation, which is strange.
Right. Yeah, no, that's interesting. And so you say that they have a greater predilection genetically. You mentioned to kind of like go with the group, right? In terms of like finding their identity with more of a collectivist outlook.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I also know personally, I've looked into some like studies relating to this, and I did see that even when it comes to infants and babies, I found this study that said like Chinese babies were less likely to even cry, or they had a less likelihood to find it to be like disturbed from external influences as well, and they were more kind of like steady in their emotional output than Caucasian babies or other infants. So I also found that quite interesting. And yeah, you can't deny those patterns of behavior, like, and these are infants, these aren't people that have been exposed to society to the same degree adults have, or even teenagers or kids have. So that is interesting to take into account. So yeah, and started off in more Asiatic countries, more Oriental cultures, and it bled over to the West, right? And so what do you think the long-term effects will this be? Do you think, well, naturally, you think there's going to be a greater divide and a greater partisanship between the sexes, and do you think that bleeds into politics as well?
This is the long-term effect. Mouse Utopia is not going to be fun. I don't know what to tell you. I've never sold you on that. So, if current trends continue, there will be 4 Koreans at the end of this century for every 100 now.
Wow,
and
okay.
The thing that really scares me is that we have pretty wide standard deviations for computer models on population decline. The results around the world in every continent are faster than our fastest computer models. And that's true in Colombia, it's true in America, it's true in India. The only place in the world that has a sustainable birth rate is Africa now. And that's falling fast too. And I suspect that humans did not evolve for urban environments. And we have to remember how recent the Industrial Revolution was. The first country in the world to industrialize or get majority urban was Britain in 1850. America only became majority urban until 1920, and even today, half of Americans are suburban, which is why white Americans stabilize at one of the highest birth rates of any population in the world. Because there's the population crash, which is really rapid, and it's really bad, especially in China. And in China, the government was lying about the stats, and the stats are worse than even we thought. And it's just insane. And this is a historic event. I don't know what that means. I don't know who will win. I don't know what the final culmination of that would be. But what we're looking at now is a truly historic event. And I find people get chart thinking, line go up equal world gooder.
Right, yeah.
There's reverse of that, line go down equal world worse. And you get chart mindset, and then you have to break out of it and realize you're looking at a historic event in retrospect. So an example of that is World War I was caused by slight deviations in industrial manufacturing across Europe. The British and the French were worried the Germans would outcompete them industrially. The Germans were worried the Russians would outcompete them. And so someone before the time could think, look, the charts for Europe, we're all growing so fast, and there's a weird differentiation in chart. And that chart means a major war. Or Germany and Russia had this youth bulge of young people in the early 20th century, and that manifested in the world wars. The Anglo-French youth bulge was the colonization of the British Empire, the population of the Americas, the Industrial Revolution, and the Napoleonic Wars. So we are looking at a historic event about to happen. It's unclear what it is, but the world at the end of this will be vastly different in any conceivable way from today.
Oh man, that's pretty scary to think about. You did mention also, I saw in your content that you did kind of mention the idea that there is a potential for civil war, right? Another civil war happening.
Yeah.
With Trump winning, especially the popular vote, do you think there's a greater likelihood of that occurring now?
So does the election of Trump increase the rate of civil war?
Mm-hmm. Or like the potential of it occurring, or do you think? Because what I've noticed is that the left wing, they seem to be kind of low energy too, though. Like I know that they planned a lot of these rallies afterwards, or protests rather, and a lot of people didn't show up. From what I'm gathering, I don't know if those are just memes or not, but it seems to me they are lower energy. Or do you think they're just depressed? Perhaps I'm looking at the short term, but do you think that the chances of a civil war happening is increased because of Trump's win?
I think they're stable. So, are you familiar with Peter Turchin's work?
Vaguely.
Yeah. Peter Turchin pulled them from one of my favorite authors, David Hackett Fisher, the Albion Seed guy, and DHF looked at inflation patterns to predict national breakdowns. Okay. And so, French Revolution, 30 Years War, Black Death. That happens every 250 years as far as we have records. And then Peter Turchin, he made a computer model to predict these, and he has used these for Chinese civil wars. He's used these for a variety of historic events alongside the ones I just named. And he said in 2010, based off 3 economic variables, that America would have a civil war like this in the 2020s. And every single variable he looked at has gotten way worse, and also our political conflict has gotten way worse. And I look at a variety of other historic cycles. I'm pulling together like 5 for my prediction we'll have a civil war soon. But the short answer I would give is that America is so broken on a fundamental level that you have to have a war to reset. And that brokenness is a combination of like 20 different things. It's inequality, it's more normal people being poor, it's bureaucratic overreach, it's corrupt control of the economy. America has so many issues that the only way we can reset is through a revolution in the manner of the French Revolution. And I think we've hit that level of critical tension. And I've said before, I am very happy that Trump is not America. I am very happy that Trump won this election because that gave him and us de jure right to rule for the next 4 years. Because in a civil war like this, I have an 80% probability the right wins and a 20% probability it loses. The 20% probability is that the military, which leans conservative, fights against the conservatives because the left has such legal legitimacy. And we've completely removed that. If there's a civil war now, it would happen upon our terms with our legal legitimacy, which would move the chances of a rightist victory up to nearly 100%. Because the right has a central geographic location, influence in most of the military, the police, the gun owners, its resources, agriculture, industry, electricity. The right would... I am more optimistic of the right winning a civil war, but I think we'll still have a civil war. If you'd like, I can explain where I think the left is at now emotionally and what they're doing.
Yeah, no, let me know your thoughts on that. I'd be interested.
Yeah, so the left is worked themselves up to an emotional fever pitch that they can't let themselves down from. It's like a thunderstorm where the condensation increases and it has to rain to let out. And I think the left has, because the problem is they remove all the dissenters, they remove the people who tell them no, they remove the people who are, they remove the reasonables, and so when I was a teenager, I moved from rural Pennsylvania to downtown Philly, and I went from majority conservative, level 3 wokeness to level 8 wokeness. And as a teenager, I realized wokeness would ultimately kill itself for this reason, that it gets stuck in these purity spirals it can't break out of, and it's an anti-meritocratic system,
right?
Because it's a racial caste system. Mm-hmm. And what I see is that the wokies, my ultimate thesis is that the wokies have enough institutional power that they cannot let go of, because the right threatens them, because their order is fundamentally inefficient and silly and useless with AI. I like to say you could replace the entire managerial state with due to three words: AI, the internet, and wokeness.
Yeah.
AI and the internet means you can have non-bureaucratic coordination that occurs asynchronously, independently. AI could replace the entire bureaucracy with codes. And then wokeness is showing the bureaucracy to be so completely deranged that they've discredited themselves. And I believe with these three things that they are in a position of fundamental weakness, and they want to strike against the right, where multiple leftist think tanks have said that the left will launch a coup with the intelligence agencies if Trump wins. Or they've shadow boxed it. With... what's that other thing? Oh yeah, Jamie Raskin, Democrat senator, said that they'd throw out the results of the election with the 14th Amendment. And so what I think is going on is the left is in a place of desperation. And I've said before, I believe that the Civil War would start this year. And I could be wrong there. The bet that I put more weight on is that we will have a civil war in the next 4 years.
4 years. Okay, well,
if it doesn't,
got to stock up on those on canned goods, everyone, just in case things start to shut down. But no, that's scary, and no, I could see that happening. I did also wanted to ask you and kind of like shift towards more politics now, but we do see the partisanship divide between the sexes and between certain populations of people here in the United States. What do you think the future is for more so political ideology of the United States? Because like as we are seeing politically, we are becoming more partisanship, more partisan, right? And especially with the introduction of Trump in 2016 into political movements and in the conservative movement, do you think that even the Republican Party itself has a future, or do you think that would split up? Because I think it's going to faction. But with Trump's win, I don't know now. I'm kind of shifting on that view. But do you think that the Republican Party has even any future, or do you think that's going to faction as well?
America needs to have two political parties, and it's always been a bi-party system due to the Electoral College. We're not a parliamentary system where you can split up into a sub-variety of different coalitions. The Scottish Nationalist Party or the Quebecois Independence Party, they would be folded into their Democrats or Republicans. You can't have the separatist parties here. So we're going to have two parties. The Republicans and the Democrats have been stable since the Civil War. So at least one of them is going to survive, in my opinion. I don't know which. I think we're entering a period of profound chaos where the future will be determined by choices that have not yet been made. I think so. Both are in a point of transmutation, where the right's transmutation was you had the old right, and then Trump destroyed them, and now Trump is folding in tech people and schizos and autists to form the coalition. And I think I'm optimistic for the new right faction. I was especially optimistic about working with Vance and Elon, because they're genuinely innovative people who are not the old country club conservatives, and they're not foolish. I am a populist, but there are foolish populists. I don't mean to speak ill of populism. The left, meanwhile, have been consumed by a nihilistic death cult that has no interest in giving up power. And they're stuck between minority votes where they buy off the upper classes of the minorities, and the lower and the middle classes don't have much real incentive to cooperate. So I could see the right picking up minorities. I don't know if that will actually pan out. The coalitions are still in flux. It depends on who dies in the Civil War. I have to cut out whatever factions get shot. And if you look at civil wars, it's normally rebel radical factions that take over. The Jacobins, the Bolsheviks, the Puritans, the radical Republicans, each were pretty small minorities until violence got them into power. Which is why I've said I think it's not improbable that legitimate far-right nationalists take over the U.S. government in the next 10 years.
Right. No, and I've seen, I've seen like the death of legacy media occur, and I'm going to be talking about that after this segment here. But we are seeing like the pre-established networks that the left wing has run, but also establishmentarian right wingers have as well, finally die off or crumble at least. And with Trump's appointments and his picks, and I wanted to ask your opinion following after this question on that. But yeah, you are seeing him like introduce kind of like this new right or an expansion of, I suppose, a bigger tent policy, I guess he's trying to introduce within the right wing or within the Republican Party. But with the appointment of Vance or even Elon just recently is pretty big. And so, you actually answered my question before I was going to ask it, but I want to ask your attitude on this and what this means for the new right and the right wing movements. But I am pretty optimistic, and it's really interesting to see. And what I was happy to see, actually, Trump now saying that he wants to completely upend and change the accreditation system in the United States, which is huge because, truthfully, I think the academic system has contributed to a lot of the problems we have here.
Yeah.
So I want to ask your opinion on that as well, and what you do think of Trump's proposed policy so far.
I was so happy to see the attack on accreditation.
Yeah.
I'm a college dropout, so I don't support that system. But the thing with attack on universities is I think it's a very smart and a very stupid move, because on one side, our ruling class for the last 70 years has been selected through the college system. So you're attacking the old ruling class, and I support that because I'm not a member of that system. And at the same time, I think the bureaucracy's done irreparable damage to America since its takeover with the world wars. However, when I worry about a future dark age, the end of universities is one of the best things that could start a dark age, because universities have been the thing that has propelled knowledge generation. Gentlemen scholars are the people who make the intellectual breakthroughs to new fields, and then the professors count up the numbers and get the important info, so a new generation of gentlemen scholars can invent new academic fields. And although for the last generation, academics invented some different fields, but there was a total decline in the growth of scientific fields. So I am worried about if academia gets hurt, our intellectual capabilities going to the toilet. But I'm really optimistic about Elon and Vance and this crew with Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, because I was looking at conservative coalition building, trying to predict a future faction. And this new faction offsets lots of negatives I was worried about, while at the same time has strengths that I was hoping the right would receive. Because the right could have taken a handful of worse directions. It could have... I am a Christian, but I don't support Christian fundamentalism on a national level because it's just going to alienate people. It's going to alienate people who aren't fundamentalists. I think it works in states where they predominate, and they're bad at converting new people. So I'm glad that didn't happen. I'm glad they didn't go for stupid populism, because most populism around the world is pretty stupid in places like Argentina or a variety of European countries, etc. I'm glad it didn't go for like just living off country club conservatives, because the country club conservatives were the reason we got into this mess, because like Romney, etc. And it went for a hard tech route, which is playing into a faction I need to make a name for, but I consider calling the Peter Thiel, Elon tech right the formists.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. My idea for formism, and I'm going to have to make a video just explaining my concept of formism, is that an interesting ideology for these people is replicating the Platonic forms in the real world. And because you're combining religious with tech ideas, it's basically we are generating technological progress while at the same time doing so in a way that's ethical with higher forms.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to make a video on that one. That sounds like that. You heard it here first, folks. Potential what if alt history video in the making, in the works. This is a breaking news platform. Thank you for sharing that. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I drop video ideas like 10 times a week.
Yeah.
I mean, my idea is that you could develop, I think, formism with this tech science coalition. You could pull from Hinduism and Hermeticism to have interesting mystic science connections. So I'm optimistic about these people because I think fundamentally it's a smart coalition and it's non-ideological and it's big tent. And those are three things that are difficult to put together. And I'm so glad they've fallen out of the purity spiraling, because I see the purity spiraling as the thing that's going to hurt the right the most in the future if it's projected forward. But I think this Trump coalition has to add in, they have to get a little bit more schizo, but I think that's going to happen through their integration with the general population.
Yeah, and it's interesting you do bring that up, because I did kind of notice that with Trumpism now, especially with the previous RNC that we just had, is that there is this more of a big tent approach to, introducing new names and new viewpoints even within the Republican Party and the conservative movement. And it'll be really interesting to see where that goes. Trump also seems to be pretty plugged in and aware of even alternative media systems, like I mentioned earlier in this stream, that he mentioned Joe Rogan in his speech, and Peter Thiel. So it's really interesting for him to be aware of that, and it's also very exciting. And him bringing in JD Vance, it was a big flag for that happening as well. Before we wrap this up, I did kind of want to ask you, because you already mentioned the DR, but how influential do you think the DR is presently in the conservative movement, or do you think it will become more influential? Or do you think it's just like a minor blurb right now happening within conservative history?
I have a running joke with my friends, and the joke is, I asked people, what's the state of the right today? And what's the underlying, I asked people, I've asked this to many people on the right, what are the factional breakdowns of the different parts of the right? What percent are Nazis? What percent are libertarians? What percent are theocrats? What percent are Lovecraftian Gothic theocrats? And you go through all of that. And I've asked every person, and every single answer is, I don't know. And so I said the state of the right is people don't know. Yeah. It's this state of formless chaos that will have something come out of it. But the formless chaos itself is the most important variable, in the same manner where I've been reading a lot on the 19th century history of the left. And there was a period after the French Revolution when the left was what the right is today. It was just schizos in Twitter talking to each other, batting around ridiculous ideas in a broad tent coalition that wasn't sure what it was about. And then the left had a variety of thinkers that it formed into actual organizations, but that wasn't always the case. And the right's there now, where we're in a place of enormous creativity where something could happen, and it's just that has to happen yet. But as of now, the chaos itself is the most important variable. And what I see here is I actually think the DR is one of the factions I'm most white-pilled on, because I've lived a strange life and I've seen a lot of different industries. And most industries in America are high school. And what I mean by that is that they are corrupt. They're done through who went to school with whom. They're done with buddies contracts without a concept of merit. And the two industries that aren't are parts of tech and parts of the right. And what I do see is the DR has social mobility, and it has a cleverness and a responsiveness to its environment that's lacking. And the mainstream right can't do that. It lacks any creativity. It lacks any vitality. And so when I look at the place where there's creativity, I see that ideas either generated on the tech right or on YouTube and social media or on the DR will be the ideas that predominate. So my guess is that ideas developed in the DR now, whenever I see DR, I think Dominican Republic.
You're right.
But
for those that
the
don't know,
DR
it means dissident right. It's a dissident right
Yes.
movement. Yeah.
So for the DR, I think ideas we develop now will be heard about in centuries. And this is one of the things my friend Uberboyo has brought up, that in the last cycle is the French Revolution until the present. Leftism dominated that cycle. This is an interesting idea where between each secular cycle, a different ideology predominates. So between the French Revolution and today, it's left versus right. French Revolution to 30 Years' War is mercantilism versus capitalism. 30 Years' War to the Black Death is church and 30 years is Protestant versus Catholic, and then Black Death, the fall of the Frankish Empire, is Holy Roman Emperor versus state. So I believe that the situation we are in now will develop intellectual currents that will dominate in the Western world until the 23rd century.
Okay, that's exciting. Actually, I'm good. It's good for you to say that. Well, I'm gonna have to wrap this up because we are going a little overtime. But I want to thank you so much, Rudyard, for joining my little stream here. Big fan of you and your work. So thank you for joining. I highly appreciate it. And for those that don't know who he is, his name is Whatifalthist. He is on YouTube, and I'm gonna share. I'm gonna show the screen and after the commercial break of your YouTube channel and where people can find you and follow you. And I will also share your Twitter as well. Are there any other areas that people want to find you, or do you have any last comments or thoughts?
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you so
Peace.
much, Rudyard. Yeah, thank you. And everyone, we will be right back with more news stories here.
Well, here comes Anita like Marilyn with a twist. She's got a master's degree and a style you can't resist. On Culturama, baby, we're shaking up the scene. So hit that like, make it click, you know what we mean. Like and subscribe, come on, don't delay. With Daniela at the helm, we're leading the way. It's Culturama, taking back tomorrow today.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the four olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah, who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being.
If you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Well, things haven't been so sweet for Ben & Jerry's after the company posted an anti-American tweet, a few of them, on the 4th of July. The ice cream makers declared the United States was founded on stolen indigenous land.
Well, someone should tell Target that, because they're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store. And they even have a line just for kids.
Yeah, we're going to reach out to Ben & Jerry's and ask them how they can live with themselves as they operate a multi-billion-dollar company on stolen land while declaring other people give up their so-called stolen land.
This is the child section. This is literally the kids section. I'm next to a literal onesie that says whatever the hell that means. We have glad you came out, and I'm so happy that you're queer. In the kids section. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, but pride and toddler don't belong in the same sentence.
Good news! Starbucks will offer its workers reimbursement of travel expenses related to accessing abortion and gender-affirming procedures.
Kyle Rittenhouse was seen wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company shirt, and they wanted to distance themselves from that individual. Key employees at the company also were donating to Democrats. Hafer doubled down on throwing many in his base under the bus, describing them as racist and a repugnant group of people.
Liberty lovers.
Okay, what did you guys think about that interview? I think it went quite well. I did see some comments come in from the Rumble rants, so I'm going to read those here in a second for you, and then I'll get back with the remainder stories that we have. Before we have the Liberty Tonight show following right after this one, I will try to raid the stream. Again, the last couple times have not been as successful, but I will do that. But before I read any of the Rumble rants, I did promise that I would show What If Alt History's YouTube page. So there you go. This is his YouTube page, What If Alt History. It's at What If Alt Hist. This is the YouTube page. And as you can see that he has a lot of interesting videos here. His most popular one, I think, was the mouse... hold on. No, it wasn't that one. Okay, well, he talked about the mouse experiment, but he has a lot of major... Looks like What Would World War III Be Like is a pretty popular video. We also have Who Will Win America's Next Civil War, a topic that he's quite passionate about. So he has very, very interesting videos here that I think a lot of my audience will enjoy and have enjoyed. I know a lot of you guys are probably his fans already, so... But that is What If Alt History. Okay, let's go back to the stream here. And I will show his Twitter a little bit later here at the end. I did want to get to this, but his Twitter can be found. You know what? Let me just, what am I doing? Let me just pull it up here for you guys. And what am I doing? Twitter. And then I'll get to the Rumble rants. We just have 20 more minutes left of the show. But What If Alt History? Here we are. Okay, this is a Twitter page that I promised to show you guys. So that was his YouTube page. Here's a Twitter page. What If Alt Hist? Same at. You can find him. Help him reach 70,000 followers, guys. That'll be great. And looks like he retweeted the stream. Awesome. Okay. So that it was the guest. For those that don't know, although I can't imagine that, he has way more clout than I do, so I would presume most of you guys already know who he is. But let's get back to the Rumble rants. I know I had one come in here from Entropy Nomad. Thank you so much, Entropy. You are just outdoing yourself today with the donation, so thank you so much. He wrote, $5 donation, should we expect more wars if populations are naturally declining, less competition of resources? I see that you tweeted, or I'm sorry, that you sent this one in, Entropy, probably when the interview was going on, so I apologize for missing your comment there. I should have actually asked Rudyard that question. But, and that question did kind of come into my mind during the interview. I should have asked it, but yeah, that is an interesting question. It probably would be helpful to tweet him and at him, or just ask that question if you want to answer from him directly. But my natural inclination would be that the Civil War, with the advanced technology that we have now, I think that it would still be a greater potential to actually conduct war through the technology that we have, regardless of population size. Although I would agree with you, at the end of the day, manpower is manpower. So perhaps the chances of it being sustained as long as it has in the past perhaps is at a lesser degree. So I could see that certainly happening. It's a really good question. And I see that a lot of Rudyard's yes, Nelson65 is at the Mouse Utopia. Yes, one of his more popular videos have been about the Mouse Utopia. I call it the Mouse Experiment, slipped my mind. But yeah, the Mouse Utopia is quite a famous experiment and just like a thought piece to examine. And if you want to find that, you can just look up Mouse Utopia, What If Alt History, and he has a wonderful video on it that I've watched multiple times, actually. It's quite interesting. And I think a lot of you guys will enjoy it if you haven't watched it yet. Anyway, I have one more topic to touch on, and I've already hinted at it with you guys, but it is about the legacy media dying and major figureheads within great media dying, and especially after Trump's win, completely leaving. And I did want to touch on that, but also I want to mention to you guys that if we get just a couple more donations in, I will wheel Leo out, my dog. Okay, maybe if you just get 2 more donations in, I will wheel in my dog Leo. And No Easy Answers wrote, unleash the beast and drop new Leo lore. Okay, I'll have to think about a piece of lore to share with you guys about Leo. Maybe after this next subject I'm talking about, I will bring him in wearing one of his custom clothes, and I will answer any questions you may have about Leo. Okay, but let me get to this topic first, and then I will wheel him out, and then try to raid the next stream with you guys to the Liberty Tonight show. So let's just get this over with here, shall we? So, as you can see, the tweet has been deleted, okay? But this was originally a tweet, and I had it pulled up. I had it saved. It was up since last night, since I last looked at it. But it was a tweet of Don Lemon saying that he is leaving X. And it's deleted now. Okay, I just opened it up during the commercial break, and it wasn't there anymore, and I was quite disappointed. But as you can see from the comments, that people are completely making fun of him. And so, I wish I screenshotted it now, because it was a letter, resignation, basically, of him leaving Twitter. And this is basically everyone's opinion of that, so quite unfortunate. Anyway, I also wanted to get to this story. Los Angeles Times owner has fired the entire editorial board and gives this reason. So here's the article, but basically, the LA Times owner, for those of you that don't remember, but the LA Times was one of the major news publications that would not endorse Kamala Harris for the presidential race. I believe it was also USA Today as well that didn't do it, and I forgot the other publication, but I know there was at least 3 major news publications that would not endorse Kamala, and it upset a lot of Democrats off. But it seems to be now, following that, is that now the board is being replaced. And oh my goodness, this website is also cancer. Oh my gosh. Anyway, there we go. Yeah. So Patrick Soon-Shiong is announcing that he is firing the entire editorial board of LA Times. His decision is because he wants to find a board that is more objective and has a more of a reasoned approach to news and politics. Okay, he says here, I will work towards making our... I can't even read this because of this stupid ad for Gladiator 2, which I will not be watching. I will work towards making our paper and media fair and balanced so that all voices are heard and we can respectfully exchange every American's view. So there you have it. That clearly hasn't been the case somehow up until this election season. And it seems as though, major news media companies are now getting a wind of that, and they are seeing the tides turn, kind of. And with the introduction of, figureheads like Elon Musk basically outright changing entire platforms and maintaining somewhat of neutrality on certain issues, you see others follow. For instance, like Mark Zuckerberg, who was big on censorship on Meta platforms, and now even Mark Zuckerberg has come out saying, like, look, I want to keep it perfectly stabilized, neutral here, especially during previous to the election season. And Mark probably had inside knowledge, or at least had intuition told him that Trump would win, and so perhaps he tried to retain some of his online legitimacy through doing that. But yes, the LA Times is now completely reinventing itself because of this, and we are already seeing Trump isn't even officially in office yet, and we are seeing major changes now happening. Again, it's just been white pill after white pill after white pill, and regardless of the potential of civil war, I'm excited with what's happening here. And hey, maybe civil war would be fun. I don't know. Most likely not. Don't quote me on that. And lastly, there is this I wanted to touch on, for those of you that are unaware of who Raw Egg Nationalist is, but this is a big right-wing account. He wrote, in yet another sign of the growing ascendancy of the right-wing bodybuilder movement, Bronze Age Bandits, which is Bronze Age Pervert, and I are both, another big right-wing account, are both mentioned in Britain's Daily Telegraph newspaper as playing a key role in Trump's victory. Imagine if you tried to predict this only 5 years ago. So there's the news that he's citing here. And I talked about this in the last couple streams, how, we are seeing the ultimate decline and deconstruction almost of the left-wing, primarily left-wing legacy media, but also the neocons as well, and the establishment right breaking down. See, they mentioned SBAP right here, Bronze Age mindset right here in the news. Who was to think even just 5 years ago that these right-wing burner anon accounts would make, if not major strides in the political movements and cultural movements, and also now being cited by the very media that wanted them to just not even exist. And now they have to mention them because they are influential. And if that isn't a white pill, I don't know what is. But in Bronze Age Pervert has followed me. Raw Egg Nationalist, I highly encourage you to follow me as well. That's coming. Okay. So I think this is very exciting. I think this is all very exciting, and all of you should be excited. Okay, you have, yeah. We had 3 more donations come in. Nelson65, 4 minutes ago, wrote, "We want Leo, Leo, Leo," in all caps. $5 donation. Thank you so much, Nelson. No Easy Answers wrote $5 donation. No Easy Answers is the best. Unleash the Beast. And then Grizz Cheese wrote for a $2 donation, "It's been a long day and my brain wasn't ready for that interview. I see a rabbit hole to explore in my future." Yes, Grizz Cheese. I encourage you to go to his YouTube channel and there's a lot to cover on there. I do recommend the Mouse Utopia video, but if you want to go into more of a Civil War information, it's there. The videos are there. You can just go back and rewatch it when you're more cognitively able. I know I have those days a lot with the brain fog. I get too busy. I can't really follow things, but we have big interviews on this show. Anyway, I will be bringing out Leo. Just give me 1 minute. I'm going to get my assistant here to bring him out. Wheel out the beast. So I'm going to put us on a little hold on. I'm going to put us on a wait screen and I will be right back and I'll bring Leo in.
I'm glowing in the night, shining like a star in this atomic age, a brighter by far. Untouchable energy, it's a glowing affair. Ready, ready, I'll take you everywhere. I'm untouchable now, feel the power in the air. Radioactive rhythm, but sense without care. Electric and alive in this atomic embrace. Unstoppable now in this glowing space.
Okay, we are back in with the beast here. Now, I will do my best to show him off to you guys, but here's Leo. Now, I have him in an ensemble here, but this is made of real feathers, made of real chicken feathers, and this is his, I guess you could call it the Off to the Kentucky Derby ensemble, but here he is. There is Leo, and I know a lot of you have been wanting to see him. I haven't had him on for the last 2 streams, and so I decided to bring him on. And you guys followed through with the assignment, and you knew that if I just got a couple more donations in, I would bring Leo. So here he is. And if you want to look at the back side, we have the red for Culturama, the signature Culturama red dress. And you know what? I really should see if I could get dog clothing on my Culturama shop. That would be quite interesting. I don't know if that's an option, but I'm gonna look into it. How many of you guys have small dogs? Maybe I can do that. But yeah, she looks really tired today. Let me check back with you guys. What is he like as a snack? What was he like as a little baby? Look at his little pecker. Yeah, so no easy answer is a very good question. He loves chicken. His favorite snack is chicken, but I found out just last month that he's actually severely allergic to chicken. He's been having really bad inflammation issues and fur shedding for a long time, and I didn't know why. I thought he was just generally dysgenic. Billy Harrington from YouTube, Where's Rudyard? If you go back in the stream, I had an interview with him on an hour ago. So if you go back an hour previous in the stream, you'll see the interview that we had. I also post all my streams and record them and post them afterwards as well on the channel, so you could find it there as well. But anyway, to answer your question, he does like chicken, but recently he has to go on an all pescatarian diet because he's allergic. So right now I'm giving him salmon bits as a snack. And then what was he like as a little baby? Very stubborn. Very stubborn, and he just wanted food all the time. And yes, this is his little pecker right here. So I do call him a transgender dog because he was fixed a little too early, and because of that, I think what had occurred is that he had a spike in estrogen. He gains weight very easily. He may have thyroid issues as well, as far as I'm aware. But this is Leo time. Rudyard has left. No easy answers wrote. It is Leo time. The last 10 minutes of this show is dedicated to promoting my dog Leo. Animal Friend wrote Prosperous. I'm gonna take this, pick this. There you go. There you go, buddy. There you go. That's Leo, everyone. I know you wanted me to unleash the beast. He loves his outfits. I know you guys think he's not having a good time, but he's treated better than most African children, okay, in the Sierra Leone. He's fed better than them. So, as you can tell, so he has quite the good life. Like I had mentioned previously, his original owners wanted to drown him. So, I think he's doing well. Do not call Animal Protection Services on me, please. Okay. The show is coming to an end. I would stay longer, but we do have the Liberty Tonight show coming up. Pretty a funny couple guys, and I'm going to try and stream raid them again. I'm going to try to copy the link in. But how old is he, Nelson? He is, I think, 8 years old now. So he's kind of an old man. He's 8. And I think he's going to turn, his birthday's in July. So he's going to turn 9 in another year or so. It's going to be big. We don't know if he's a he or a she, but it. But anyway, the Liberty Tonight show will be coming up. You guys are going to love this one, and I'm going to try and stream raid this, okay? So after this, actually, I'm going to pull up the link right here, see if I can do it correctly. But the Liberty Tonight show will be on in 4 minutes, so I hope you guys will just stay in, and we can get that done. So I'm going to go off on break on the standby screen. You guys just stick around for the last 5 minutes. I'm going to send you the link to go to the Liberty Tonight show, and I think you guys will enjoy it. But other than that, I want to thank everyone for coming onto the stream and enjoying the show, and thank you for tuning in to Culturama. I'll be streaming again next week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, every week. We always cover the most pertinent topics, and we also try to have the most pertinent guests. As you could see today, I had Rudyard on, or Whatifalthist History, and that was quite the interesting and necessary interview to have. And let's all join again and reconvene next week so we can work on reclaiming the traditional spirit of Americana and reclaiming the zeitgeist in the United States yet again. So thank you for joining, and hold on, I gotta get here we go. Thank you for joining, and let's work towards reclaiming the zeitgeist in the United States. Again, you stand by for the Liberty Tonight show. I will send in that link in the Rumble chat right now. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'll see you next week.